last one here. And this is the one that, for me, selfishly, I was super excited to add this to the itinerary. One of my big goals here, just being kind of the role I am as an integrator with our company, is to allow this guy to tell his story and communicate our message as effectively as possible with the masses. This is one of the most powerful guys I've ever met in my life, and I want to give him that platform. And so when I knew we were coming to Orlando, I knew this was an opportunity for all you guys in person to truly hear what I feel like is the story of DK, the story of this company, which is YouTube. So I knew this was a no-brainer, and I wanted to save it for last. So I'm very, very excited for you guys to hear this live in the flesh. First people ever to sit down here and really, again, hear the story of DK, how everything got started. So we're gonna do a little bit of a live podcast style interview. And at the end, we'll have time for some Q&A and things like that. But other than that, I'm going to give these two the floor. So Manny, Gabe, take it away.
Thanks for the intro, bro. Love you, man. Love everything you do for this company. I mean, I tell people jokingly that this company would fall apart without Joey Joheim, and that's absolutely true. I feel like half my days would fall apart without this guy calling me and texting me and making sure that we're doing the right thing. So, dude, we wouldn't even have the ability to share this message with the world if it wasn't for you. If it wasn't not just for your unmatched work ethic, but if it wasn't for the very unique gift that God gave you of the way that your mind operates and the way you're able to integrate and the way that you're able to organize and the way that you're able to make sure that everything is where it needs to be at all times. So, dude, just want to honor you. Thank you. I love you, man. Thank you for being who you are.
Appreciate you, bro.
Love you, bro.
Crush it.
All right, guys. Dad, this is just a conversation between me and you. So, I want to kick this off with a story that I'm not sure you know. I'm actually going to give you two stories. One you probably know, one I don't think you know. And I'm going to follow these stories up with a question, okay? So when I was maybe 10, 11 years old, we were at St. Pete Beach on vacation, okay? And it was a rainy day, so we couldn't really find a good spot to settle. The rain kind of stopped, so we found this really small, just corner pocket beach that there wasn't really much people at. And you had bought myself and Marcos, my older brother, for, if any of you aren't aware, he's 2 years older than me, some snorkels. Angel's a little kid, maybe 3 years old. Just you guys were taking care of him the whole time. You guys let me and Marcos snorkel around the coral reefs in St. Pete Beach. And so anyway, me and Marcos are swimming around this coral reef, and Marcos is diving. I'm just kind of chilling, following my older brother. And Marcos comes up and he's like, "Hey, Gabe, there's a shark down there." And I'm like, "What? No way, there's not a shark down there." And he's like, yeah, there's a shark down there. And I'm like, "Okay, show me." And so Marcos takes me down. We swim down about 8-10 feet, maybe at the max. And right underneath the coral reef, sure enough, there's this about 8-foot nurse shark chilling under the coral reef, sticking out. We can see it clear as day. It wasn't moving. It was just resting on the bottom. Sure enough, we swim back up. We're like, "Holy shit, there's a shark down there." And so I'm like, "Wow, yeah, great sight. Something I never thought I'd see before. Awesome. Let's keep playing. Let's keep messing around." But of course, Marcos, being Marcos, says like, "I'm going to touch it." And I'm like, "No, you're not." And he's like, "Yes, I am." I'm like, "Okay, go ahead." So me and Marcos swim down, and I'm prepared to watch my brother die. And Marcos swims right up to this nurse shark, and he grabs the nurse shark's tail and yanks on it like it's a rag doll. And the nurse shark flinches. We swim back up, thinking it's going to chase us, but nothing happens. It kind of seemed to stay in its hole. And I'm thinking, "Man, you're crazy." It just gave me a heart attack. Anyway, I think the entire escapade is over, so I'm just swimming there, doggy paddling, and he says, "Now it's your turn to touch it." And I'm like, no, I'm not going to touch it. This is my older brother, so the older brother always wins. Remember that? He said, "Now you're going to touch it." And I said, "Okay, I guess I'm going to touch it." So now I'm like, well, I just almost witnessed my brother die. I guess now I'm going to witness myself get mauled alive by the nurse shark. Anyway, I swim down there with Marcos. Sure enough, older brother watching me over my shoulder. I reach out, I grab this nurse shark by the tail, and I yank it. Flinches. We swim back up for our lives, but nothing happens. We're good. We're fine. All that story is to just give you guys a preview of my brother's personality. My older brother's personality is one of the most courageous, one of the bravest, one of the craziest people that I've ever met. He jumps out of airplanes. He shoots drug boats out of helicopters for a living. And he is somebody who, when I think I'm about to do something scary, I think about Marcos, and I think that. Now, he would say this is no big deal. One of the bravest men that I've ever come across in my life. The second story I want to tell you is the story of this little kid that I met about, 4 years ago. And this kid, he comes home one day, walks into my house, and I'd come home, and I see this kid sitting on the couch with my parents, and this kid has got a bloody nose, he's got a busted lip, his fake tooth that he knocked out himself 5 years prior was knocked loose, right? And I'm looking at this kid, and my mom's arm is around his shoulder, and you're sitting there next to him too, and I'm like, what happened? Why are you all busted up? Why do it look like you just get in a motorcycle accident? And you guys tell me that Angel got in a fight. And later we find out it wasn't really a fight. All right, Angel, 12 years old, was in the locker room and pretty much gets sucker punched by some kid who's way older than him, gets beat up in the locker room in a very brutal way. Anyway, this same kid who just got beat up, still had a bruised face, still had a tooth half knocked loose, ends up coming to the gym with me the very next day. Walks into a gym called Backbone Barbell Gym, which is the home of world record-breaking powerlifters in Orlando. So a kid who just gets beat up by someone way bigger than him walks into a gym with the biggest people in the world, the biggest, strongest people in the world, and he starts lifting the PVC pipes that he was capable of at the time, eventually moves to the barbell, eventually moves to beat a kid who's deadlifting 455 pounds for 3 reps at 16 years old. I think that beats pretty much everyone in this room, maybe other than me, Matt, and Joey. I think he beats Joey, actually. No? Okay.
Joey Staples?
Yeah. Anyway, that kid grows up, great values, strong, confident, and shows up to the DK event and doesn't just help orchestrate this thing with all the help he's been putting on and impress everybody with his wisdom and poise, but ends up folding all the grown men in this room into a lawn chair yesterday at jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. Any of you remember that? This kid?
Not me. I don't know what you're
I got a mount on him.
There you go. Okay. Point being, we just had like 3 men in their 30s and 40s talk about how they got a little bit of an advantage on him for a moment yesterday. Just for a moment. I tell the stories of my 2 brothers, Dad, because something that I've been reflecting on a lot over the last year of my life as I have just grown to open my heart to forgiveness for anything that I felt like I went through as a kid, and open my heart to receive the good that God worked through my life as a child and through all the struggles that we've been through. One of the biggest things I've gotten out of this last year was, I think that you are the greatest father on the face of the earth. And I'm not saying that because you're just my dad and everybody thinks that about their dad, but I'm just looking at the proof in the pudding. The bravest person I know is my older brother, someone who would literally lay his life down for the innocent, hurt, oppressed people of this world. That's what he had to do. The most impressive young man that I know is Angel Pluguez, somebody who is stronger, more powerful, more confident, more poised, more prepared to protect the 99% of the grown men on this earth. So I want to acknowledge you for that. And I want to kick this thing off by asking you, Dad, being that you're the person who's capable of raising 3 amazing young boys like you have, where did the foundation of Manny Pluguez's story start? What's the background?
Wow. If I think about the foundation, and please, before we finish, remind me to get back to that story. Okay?
Which one?
The one about Angel and you and
Cool.
Marcos. Okay.
Cool.
I think the foundation, honestly, I'd have to attribute it to my own father. My dad was not a very tall guy. I'd probably say, maybe a little bit below the average height of the guys in this room. But my dad was just a tough son of a bitch. And he had to be. because he was smaller. And you guys probably know people that are like, kind of maybe lower, smaller in stature, that have to be a little bit more. Yeah, but that have to be a little bit more, aggressive, or they feel like they may need to compensate for that, maybe the height thing. So my dad was a pretty tough guy. I'd say my childhood was probably typical to some of you guys. In my childhood, I lived in a very, I guess, violent household. And it was all because my dad was a very violent alcoholic. And so, just to give you a couple of ideas of the crazy stuff my dad used to do. I tell people, I ask sometimes, hey, have you guys ever had a fight in church?
No.
Have you guys thought about beating somebody up in church?
No.
No? I probably thought about beating a couple people up, but I would never act on it, right? Well, my dad actually fought 3 people. 3 times in church. 3 different times, yeah. And they were all my fault. But that's the kind of dad he was. He was, he was violent at home. I never saw him hit my mom. But he'd be very violent. Basically, he'd have to buy our whole house at least once a month.
Wow.
Just from the stuff that he destroyed, including 2 cars I saw. And I hope, I'm not saying this because it's necessarily relevant, just trying to give you guys a little bit of background of who my dad was.
Yeah.
But like one morning I wake up and I think it's like a Saturday or Sunday. And actually this was a Sunday. I remember it was a Sunday. It was in Puerto Rico. I lived in Puerto Rico when I was very young. And my dad had always the worst luck with cars. And my dad, you guys probably remember from your dads, back in the day, you could kind of fix your own car. You kind of had a little bit of mechanical ability. If you need to put in a new carb or do this or do that, most of that stuff, a lot of men did, if they had any type of mechanical inclination. Well, my father had no mechanical inclination, and he thought he was a mechanic, so it was always torture. If you ask me, what's your first vivid memory of your father that you can remember? The one that I remember is the one where my dad was tearing up a 57 Chevy that he had. This was in Puerto Rico. And, that vivid memory of him with the big old jack, the old style jacks, just cursing and going crazy and just tearing his car to pulp. Second time he did that was coming out of church on Wednesday night.
Shit, what happened at this church?
A lot of stuff happened there. Yeah, no. This is just old school guys. That's just how they behave sometimes. They were just, a lot of hands on. So, the third time was a Pinto. You guys ever heard of a Ford Pinto? Well, my dad had one. I saw a Ford Pinto Club from Ohio the other day. I'm like, what? And I remember the Pinto, my dad just slamming that car as fast as he could against the house. Just going back, beginning driving. And just wrecking that car up against the house. That was my dad, okay? But something happened. When I was about 12 years old, we moved to Florida, and my dad gave his life to Christ. And when I say my dad gave his life to Christ, I mean it was like a complete 180. Okay, it was he went from being this violent person, this person that as a kid I was scared of, to being kind of this, I would say literally just becoming like Jesus. I mean, he gave up alcohol, totally gave it up. And that was, his big thing.
I'm going to say, because as you're telling these stories, I'm sitting here and I'm like, alcoholism, crashing cars in houses. Like,
Yeah.
That's not the grandpa that I knew. I never saw
Yeah,
him
of course
drink a
not,
sip of
because
alcohol.
you only saw the last part of his life, right? So, and he became a Christian man who taught us by example. One of the things that I wish I would have done more with my boys, but that he used to practice a lot with me and my son is, and I hope you guys think about this if you guys have kids, it's very important for your kids to hear their father's voice. Very important. And sometimes hearing your father's voice just means listening to them. Asking them a question. And a lot of times, when you have kids, sometimes they may not want to talk to you or whatever. And, you might let it go. You might get upset or whatever. But, we all need to hear our Father's voice. And the way I contextualize it is just like, we're here in this gathering. This is really, I'm looking at this thing at what you guys have been doing and the way Gabriel has described, what he's wanted to do with this event. And I see this as a spiritual event, not just a physical, right? But Gabe does a really good job in tying the physical and the spiritual, especially that nice talk you had about Jesus, about how Jesus had to be a person that was physically strong and fit in order to endure the way he endured on the cross. And so, what was I saying right before that?
You were talking about how it's important for children to hear their father's voice.
Yeah. So, and it's important for us to hear our Father's voice. We may not have our dads around us. Right? My dad's been gone for quite a while, almost 10 years now. And, I don't hear my dad's voice. But I hear him in my mind. And I know that in my heart, I have a Heavenly Father. That's my real Father. And that's the guy that I go to now. Since I don't have my dad, or my Heavenly Father is my Father. And that's what we need to think about, just something, if we don't have that relationship with our fathers, a lot of times we don't, things happen, life happens. His testimony, where he was destroyed as a young man because of the actions of his father and mother, the consequences of that decision.
I want to ask you a question that you're talking about how, as a father, it's so important for your voice to be repeated in the minds of your sons, right? And in Default Kings, one of the most important things we teach is this idea of inputs, like what is going into your mind, what are the thoughts that you're repeating throughout the day constantly, because those thoughts shape your habits, those habits shape your reality, like the pastor talked about today at church. One thing that is really true for me, one thing that is really clear for me through all the things that we have been through is I have always heard your voice in my head, even when we weren't really speaking. I've heard that voice of Pluguez's never give up, right? I heard that voice of you're a champion. I heard that voice of you're a conqueror, right? I heard that voice of you're the best. I heard that voice of you're a winner. So what I'm curious about is how intentional were you, especially through my younger years, about putting those thoughts and beliefs into my mind? Because they definitely helped shape me.
Yeah. When you guys were kids, there was a few decisions that your mom and I made that maybe you guys weren't aware about at that time, but one of the decisions were that we were going to try our best to maintain a healthy family relationship with God. And another one was that I'm not sure this was the best decision, but I always had this thing about like a lot of the Spanish kids that were moving here, to the Central Florida, and not being able to keep up in school because the coursework, they just didn't understand the language or whatever. And I kind of remember myself when I was a little kid, when we moved from Puerto Rico, I went to ESOL, my first year here, and so one of the things I didn't want you guys was ever to be hung up on Spanish because I didn't want you guys to have problems in school.
Interesting.
So I'm not sure that was the best decision in retrospect because I wish you guys knew a little bit better
Me habla
Spanish.
español.
Yeah, I know you do, lechonera latina. Yeah, yeah. So. Okay. What else?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. That makes sense. So we're talking about how, at a very young age, you were intentional about certain things, whether it be speaking things into my life or just orchestrating and kind of coordinating the path that I was on. So what I'm curious about is, especially, you can tell me some stories maybe from Angel, Marcos, and myself. What were some of the things that you did when you saw us stepping into our identities as leaders, as champions, as brave young men?
Yeah.
What were some of the things that you did to encourage that? How did you push us?
So back in 2006, I got very sick with pancreatitis, and it was pretty severe. And I was in a coma for about, I think it was 18 days. And I remember when I came out, that first day was horrible. You get so embarrassed when nurse taking out a bedpan and all that. Of course, when I was unconscious, you don't think about it, but when you're conscious, they're pulling on your dick, to take that catheter out, You know what I'm saying? It's kind of you're there, you're really helpless, like at the mercy of the hospital. They're not going to let you leave, just walk out, So after I got well enough to get out of the ICU, move over to the regular room, I remember the first day, I still was kind of really out of it, and I fell asleep, and I remember I was turned to my side, and for some reason this bed was up against the wall, and so I kind of had my head like this, right? Because the hospital is the worst place to rest, right? Because everybody and their mother is going through, and everybody's trying to get in your room and find something that they could charge your insurance company for. So and I had a dream, but I would say it was more like a vision. And I'll share part of it, and the part I'll share is the part that has to do with Gabriel and Angel. And in this vision, I saw my sons, all three of them, and I remember, you guys are going to laugh. In this vision, I saw Gabriel, and I saw Gabriel, and he was speaking in a stadium, and I don't know what he was talking about. I don't know. I said, "Is Gabriel preaching?" You're kind of watching in your own dream. You're trying to figure out what's happening. Is he preaching? Is he giving a motivational speech? Why are all these people here to listen to my son? And, after he started this company, when I kind of started to see the direction it was taking and all that, I kind of came to terms with the vision. And I don't know if, I don't know if, I guess Gabriel's pretty aware of it. I'm trying to remember how much I shared with the boys. But I truly have believed in my heart since that day in 2006, 2007, that, you know, that's a future that my son will see. I don't know how, I don't know what, but I can tell you something. I know this is the beginning, okay, of what God has for me, okay?
Yeah.
And it's what you might have in your mind is nothing, it's paltry compared to what God has in store. So just remember that. The second vision I saw was with Angel. And you guys think he's pretty strong, dude?
Kind of.
I mean, for a 16-year-old, I think he's pretty strong.
A little bit.
So, you know, the vision I saw for Angel was that he was going to be a powerful man, a man of power. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's going to be a physical power or, you know, some type of political, some type of something, maybe in corporate, who knows, maybe in business. But Angel, in the vision that I had, the term that came to my mind was the strong man, the strong. So, and I've shared that with you, right? Yeah. Right. So, I mean, you guys are telling me this, and I'm kind of like chuckling a little bit, but, you know, what I have in my mind is that vision, you know, that God gave me. So,
Yeah, I actually do. I've shared this with Matt and Joey only specifically, but I do remember when you first told me about that.
Yeah.
And it was when you were still in the hospital. I guess you were out of the ICU. And I remember that, I remember those 2 weeks, a little bit more than 2 weeks, pretty vividly because it was severe. I remember there was like a birthday party I was trying to go to. I was 6, 7 years old, and I couldn't go to the birthday party. And I was like, why can't I go to the birthday party? It's like, well, your dad's in the hospital. He's in a coma. I had no idea what that meant, but I knew I couldn't see you, which was really weird. And so I remember going, and the doctor's kind of saying that we can see you. I'm like, okay, can you go see my dad? I walk into your room, and I don't know if everybody was gone or if it was just me and you and Mom was getting food or something, but I remember you sharing that with me, and I didn't understand it at all. I'm just like, okay, whatever. Dad, I'm 7 years old. I have no idea what you're talking about. But what I do remember is that pretty much immediately thereafter, you taught me how to start playing that thing, right there. And you didn't just sit me down and teach me. You know, I saw it's one of the other guys the other day. You kind of did force me to learn how to play that thing. Right? I remember there was a few times where I was locked in a laundry room and I was told to do scales until dinner was ready.
Oh, I don't remember that. Man, that's hardcore. Angel, when you get home, right in the laundry room.
In the laundry room. So I remember being locked in a laundry room, being crying, just be like, "Oh my God, I want to finish my scales." I didn't know why. I was just doing it. I was a little kid, 7 years old. But that obviously turned into one of my greatest gifts, especially at a younger age, and was one of the main ways that I was impacting people, influencing people.
Yeah.
What's up, man? In case you're watching this video and you're starting to think about how important it is to be healthy for your family, then I wanted to make sure that you knew that we can help you lose 10% of your body weight in the next 12 weeks and teach you our default actions framework to keep it off permanently. That's the same framework that every man at this event used and that 350 plus men have used to lose an average of 30.1 pounds. And we guarantee that you keep it off permanently. So if you want help losing 10% of your body weight at least in the next 12 weeks, and you want to learn how to actually sustain it and keep it off permanently so that you can be healthy for your family, so that you can look better, feel better, and have a higher quality of life, then go to defaultkings.com to have all of your questions answered about how we can help you do this. Or you can just DM me on Twitter at Gabe Pluguez. It's the same username as my YouTube username, at Gabe Pluguez. Send me a DM on Twitter that says body, and it'll help you figure out how to lose 10% of your body weight in the next 12 weeks and keep it off permanently. Back to the video.
What I'm curious about is, like, especially through those years of essentially 7 through 15, where I started to get into athletics, and that kind of became the route that I started to lead people in. Mm-hmm. How did you push me to pick up that thing and work really hard at it, even though I was 7 years old and couldn't comprehend something as profound as like, this is the vision that I believe God has for you.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, Gabe. Yeah, you might think that in your childlike mind that you had before. But to be honest with you, you were so good at that I felt like within a few months you were way better than me. You know what I'm saying? You were so into it and so dedicated, and you were out there, just playing in front of all these crowds, and so yeah. But one of the things I'll be honest with you, when I was a little bit disappointed when you kind of let the guitar go and really started pursuing sports. But at the same time, I think I was telling some of the guys here, I never in my heart wanted any of my sons to hate me for me pushing them. I didn't want to be Michael Jackson's dad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Where the kids hated the dad because he was just pushing them and pushing them. I never believed to be that kind of father. I thought I could show you guys some doors, and then you guys would just kind of, find your way, and whatever you guys were going to do, you guys were going to be great at it. And that's the way I felt about it. Yeah.
Well, okay. Yeah, that's a totally different perspective. This whole time I was kind of thinking like, you have this vision, and so you almost like plot it out. This thing of like, okay, this is my vision. I'm going to put my kids in a band. I'm going to teach them this instrument.
I did.
Okay.
I mean, I had,
Yeah.
but it wasn't to the point where I wanted you guys to like really hate it, So, and once I saw you guys were kind of getting into other stuff and not really, I decided to back off.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Cool. Yeah. So I think that kind of brings us to like 15-ish years old. I remember our last band practice was probably my freshman year of high school or 8th grade year. And it wasn't really a band practice. It was just kind of like, hey, we're still doing this thing. Showed up, played instruments, weren't really doing it. So 15 years old comes around for me, and you weren't in a diabetic coma at this time, but you were still pretty sick. Can you talk to me about how your health progressed kind of from that 2006 time period to like 2015?
Yeah. So I guess I'm going to back up a little bit more. I made a major mistake in my life. Okay? So if you guys don't know by Gabriel, but when I was his age and some of the younger guys' ages, I was really into the gym, really into working out. I mean, I used to work out twice a day at lunchtime and then in the evening. And then at the same time, I was finishing up college here at Rollins. And, it was a very hard time because, I was going to school. I was working, 55 to 60 hours a week at my job. I was trying to raise you guys. And, one of the things that I consciously gave up, and I didn't give it up all together, it was a progression, right? Because I'd get up, my workout routine was to get up, run 3 miles in the morning, do gym at lunch, take a shower, go back to work, and then meet up with my wife. And we do, you guys, maybe you might remember, jazzercise. You guys ever hear that, jazzercise? Yeah, okay. So, I mean, we had this mentality of trying to, but one thing I noticed, once I graduated from Rollins, I had the option of going to several different law schools. And one thing I had noticed that my wife, she had just given birth to Gabriel. She had sacrificed all that time for me to go to school. We had 2 babies in that process. So she was kind of like the mom, and she was the dad there in the beginning. I was working, you know, and doing everything. So I kind of let it go because of that. And I'm going to tell you guys, if you guys ever think, or if any of your friends think that's the right decision, it's not the right decision. It really isn't. Because you're saying, oh, I'm doing it for my wife. I mean, these are the excuses I gave myself. Okay, do it for I'm doing this for my wife. I'm doing it to spend more time at home with the kids. I'm doing this for this reason, for that reason. But really, those were all kind of selfish reasons, because at the end of the day, if I wanted to do something, I always found the time to do it. Right? So, and of course, then your health starts getting impacted. Things like that happen. And, you know, I've been on this crazy journey. And, you know, I'll be honest with you guys. My prognosis is not necessarily a great prognosis. But I'm here, and I want to make every, you know, an impact any way that I can, you know, and even with you guys, you know, if I could give you guys some type of advice that, you know, that might help you along the way, if you guys are young fathers or anything like that. I don't really have anything else to give except experience. So, so I'll give you guys my experience, but never, ever, ever put that, okay, I'm going to quit default keys, or I'm going to quit working out for just this period of time, or for this other. Don't do it. It's not worth it, because at the end of the day, I could have made time to continue. And I probably would have at least some certainty that I would see some grandchildren. Yeah. So, and because I made those decisions 25, 24, 23 years ago, those chances have really, you know, the door has really closed. So if I have to tell you guys anything here today, if I have anything to say, is, man, just keep your journey. In the long run, for your family and for your kids. I mean, we never know what's going to happen. I mean, we could walk across the street here, a car could hit us, you know, whatever. But taking all that, all the different circumstances, you know, you do what you can with what you can control. And you guys are doing it. You guys are great examples. I mean, but don't stop.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that with these guys, Dad. I know it's not easy to talk about with yourself, with me, with all these men here. And just before we continue moving on this conversation, just want to encourage you that you being able to share that and you going through that wasn't a waste, right? That's the way that God is using you specifically in the lives of every single one of these men here. So I appreciate you for staying strong enough here to be able to show up today, not just physically, but have the courage to be able to share that. Thank you, Dad. So continuing down that track, I remember this was actually a few months ago. I got this call from you, and it was kind of a surprise call. Not that just seeing your name on my phone was a surprise, but what you talked about in this call was really a surprise to me, because over the last year or so, last year plus or so, you've really started to implement a lot healthier habits. Started moving more, started walking more, started cutting out a lot of things, lost weight, got off of a lot of your medications, saw so much of a positive impact mentally. I know you've experienced that. The family has absolutely experienced that. And that's evident by how much closer we all are together, how much more frequently we speak, how much more time we all spend together. But I'm not sure if you remember this call, but a few months ago I was cooking dinner and you called me on the phone, and you were pretty emotional. You were in tears, and I was like, "What's going on, Dad? Like, what's wrong?" And what you said to me was, I can't believe that I may not be able to see my grandkids. I don't even have any grandkids on the way. And that moment was tough for me because I'd seen so much progress and we've seen so many blessings come of that. And it was really hard to see that you still held on and still are holding on to a lot of that. So, Dad, if you're okay with kind of opening up even more, would you be okay with sharing what you think was the hardest impact and the deepest consequence that you've dealt with because of those choices?
Yeah. So back in 2015, I was working at Charles Schwab. Was making a pretty decent living, 6 figures, obviously, and no problem. 8:30 to 5, go home, don't think about it till the next day, till you get there at 8:30 the next day. And I couldn't believe, how blessed I was to have such a, what in my eyes was such a easy job, right? And somebody actually paid me for doing what I did. Well, there's so many people out there, that struggle financially and trying to meet their obligations and everything, and it's just so hard for them. So in 2015, on Saturday, I'm trying to remember the date. It was early in November, but I remember we were going to go to a concert, like a band or orchestra concert that my oldest son was having, and I told the boys, I said, "Hey, let's watch the van real quick, and we'll get out of here." The van was black and it was disgusting. So, they went out there and they were real quick, and I was with the water hose. Well, the reason why I was with the water hose is because I couldn't breathe. And that whole week, I kind of remembered, I've been having trouble breathing this week. I told my wife I was about to go on a trip the next day, business trip. And I told my wife, I said, "Baby, I don't know, something weird is happening." I said, I've been having trouble breathing. Like when I do anything physical. She goes, "Okay, when you come back, I'm going to take you to the cardiologist." So I leave the next morning, went to Denver, and went there, rented the car, got to the hotel, still feeling like crap, and of course, on top of that, now I'm in Denver. Right?
Yeah.
So, on top of the fact that I can't breathe in Florida, I really can't breathe in Denver. And it was cold too. And anyways, eat dinner with one of my workmates, and sure enough, I go upstairs and I collapse, thinking I'm having a heart attack. And I didn't call 911. Stupid me. I called my wife first. "Hey, babe," I said, "I think I'm having a heart attack. Should I call 911? So she goes crazy. I still didn't call 911. I pressed 0, and the front desk got it. Of course, there was an ambulance there within 10, 15 minutes, and I blacked out from that moment on. From the time that the ambulance came, I didn't know. I woke up, apparently it was the next day. And so they start asking me, "Sir, Mr. Puguez, we need to ask you some personal questions. Are you an alcoholic? Are you an alcoholic?" I said, "No." "Why?" No, sir. Can you tell us how much you drink? I don't drink. No, sir. Can you tell us? It's okay to tell us. I said, no, I don't drink. My house is a dry home. We don't drink because my father was an alcoholic, and I don't allow this activity in my home. And so find out I have cirrhosis of the liver, and I had no idea what that was. And apparently I had been bleeding internally that whole week from the cirrhosis, and I didn't know it. You know, hate to tell you guys this on camera and everything, but you know, when you have internal bleeding, your shit comes out pitch black. And I thought I was just eating a lot of black beans. Because we do eat a lot of black beans.
Puerto Rican over here.
Honestly, you know, I was like, yeah, okay. Whatever. And yeah, so that was kind of the beginning of the rest of my life, because after that, my entire life changed. And one of the first things that happened was, I after 20 some odd years, I got let go from my job. Never been written up, never had a bad review, never anything. But you know, I was still let go because I had surpassed the amount of FMLAs from all the hospitalization that I had, the FMLA, whatever. So that was kind of a shocker. You know, you still have kids in the house. I'm the guy who's responsible for them, for Gabriel, for Mark, for Angel. You know, I'm supposed to be, how? What do you mean I don't have a job? What else am I gonna do? This is what I know how to do. And so like I said, that was the beginning of the rest of my life at that moment. A lot of things changed. Pretty much, I think everything changed. And what year did you graduate from high school?
2018.
18? So, yeah, 2015, 2016, 2017. So from 2015 to 2016, I'm not proud to say this, I was hospitalized 18 times. And each time was over a week and a half, 2 weeks. Okay? So that's kind of what bad health will get you. That's why you guys don't want to do that, because once your health declines as a man, as the head of the family, as the provider, as the spiritual leader, as the intellectual leader, as the decision maker, all that stuff that's tied to you being the man of your family, you know, can get pretty nasty. And I think, you know, a lot of the struggles that I think probably Gabe had with me, you know, when he was in those years, and probably had to do a lot with that. You know, I was probably pretty resentful at that time. You know, you start to say, God, you know, what have I done? What did I do? Somebody gives you a, right? God, why me? You know, but that's not the way God wants us to approach this. And for the longest time afterwards, I struggled with, what is my purpose in this life? You know, because as a man, you know what my purpose was? Guess. Anybody?
Provide, kids, or raise your kids, your family.
Yeah. Work. You know? Had businesses. At one time, we had 3 Verizon wireless stores. You know, fell apart. Franchise, you know, franchise dispute. You know, we've had good things come into our lives, and we've had moments, and I don't know if Gabe remembers this. I'm not sure if Angel was born or if he was little. You know, where we struggled, you know, and maybe you guys have come from households like this too. You know, I never thought in my life that I would be sitting in my house and not be able to keep the lights on. You know, and for about 4 days, one time during that period, around 2006, when I was kind of really sick, you know, at that time, that's when I was in business for my own and all that. You know, I struggled with that. I did, you know. Because when you have a business, obviously, you got to make sure your people are taken care of, right? First. Anyways, but yeah, that's a little bit in a nutshell. I probably have a million things I can tell you guys. I'm just like everybody else here. I'm a man. I'm a man who loves God, loves my family. But I'm also a man that's realistic about some of my decisions and the consequences of those decisions. But I'm also a man that no matter what, every day I look out. You know, last year I struggled all year with liver cancer. Very painful, very, very, very painful. And sometimes what they don't tell you is that when you have cancer in your internal organs, you get scar tissue from the radiation. I didn't know that. They didn't tell me that. I felt like I had cancer again a few months after I thought everything was good. You know, and yeah, it's a life of pain, but it's also a life of gratitude. I'm really grateful. I see you guys here, and this is a testament, really, to see that you guys, you guys have made such an effort to really engage in bettering yourselves.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Dad.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate your strength and courage again. There's 2 more things I want to touch on, just to wrap this up and bring all these things home. Hopefully leave these guys and anybody who's watching this with some inspiration. First thing is, Dad, I don't know if you remember this, but when you were 47, I was 17, I came home from volleyball practice one day. You took me out on our pool deck, and you sat me down, and I was working some serving job at some restaurant, and you told me, Gabe, I want you to start saving your money. Make sure you're saving your money. I was like, yeah, Dad, I'm saving my money. He's like, no, like seriously, start putting some money aside, and you and your brother do this too, because I might not have that long left to live. Doctors gave me 5 years, and I don't know if your mom's going to be able to take care of that funeral expense. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I just said, like, okay, Dad, whatever, grumped off like I usually did at that age. I was at 47. That was in 2017, and 5 years from 47 puts that date at around 52. And this year, early February 12th, I got to go home and celebrate my dad's 53rd birthday. And that was a huge day for me, a huge day of gratitude and a huge day of glorifying God, because I got to walk in my own parents' home and celebrate my dad's 53rd birthday when he was the one who told me that that day was never going to come. And on that day, right as we were about to cut into the cake, after you blew out the candles, Mom kind of jokingly slaps you and said, 53 years, what have you learned? And you said, you got real quiet. everybody thought you were about to tell a joke or something. You got real quiet. Everybody's listening to you. Everybody's looking at you. And you said, in my 53 years, the greatest lesson that I've learned is that if you don't have your health, you have nothing.
That's true. I'm going to share a couple other things that happened. Because 2017 was a very pivotal year. The reason why I'm here now, obviously, is because of God. But the reason why I think that I'm here now is because of Him. I can vividly remember, and I'm going to tell you guys something that might freak you guys out, okay? But I'm not going to say it yet. I vividly remember being in a pool with my son when he used to hang out with his dad. Yeah, he's a teenager now. But we talk, and you know, one of the things, since I kind of knew, you know, I always thought I don't want my kids to be surprised and, you know, to freak out. I want them to be, you know, strong. You know, and you know, to make the memories of the good stuff. So I was talking to him, and I was probably talking negative. In my mind, I was just talking reality. But this little kid goes in his squeaky little voice, he goes, "Dad, you need to stop talking that way." He goes, "If you keep on talking like that, you really are going to die." He said that in his little mind. He had no idea what that did to me. I said, "You know what, son? You're right. Come here, pup." You guys, a few of you do. So, so my son tells me that, but instantly I recognize that it wasn't him. Instantly I recognize that that was God using him to wake my ass up and to stop thinking that way. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Like I was telling somebody else, I really do have a kind of a shitty prognosis. But I'm not gonna sit here and, you know, all of us are going to pass away one day. You know, some are going to be sooner than others. And I hope that, at least in the time that I have, hopefully longer, you know, that I can continue to try to instill love and wisdom and knowledge to my family, to my boys. So one of the things that Angel, I'm not sure if Angel knows this, I'm not sure Gabriel knows this, but I'm not, he wasn't aware of that particular incident. But one of the things that was a pivotal year for me in 2017, besides losing my job, prior to losing my job, I went on a business trip to Savannah, so I was just driving up there, and it was going to be, I was going to meet some clients that night, and for dinner, and then the next day I was going to work at our branch, Charles Schwab branch, and if you guys have any family members or anybody you know that have had liver disease, you guys know that there's a lot of water retention issues, and there's a lot of problems with like urination and stuff like that, you know. And I remember on this trip, I took off and I was dressed. I had a suit, white shirt, and I was a stockbroker. You know, I had to look. And I remember when I was getting close to Jacksonville, all of a sudden I had to urinate. And when a guy like me has to go, I mean, I can't hold it. I mean, it's, you know, it's like all the medication and everything, you know, it just like makes you super sensitive. And so, sure enough, damn, pissed my pants. Oh man, I was pissed. I was like, God. I was gonna have to go, open up my suitcase, find, you know, some fresh clothes to wear, before I even met these people at that meeting. So I went and I continued, and when I got to Savannah, it happened again. So now it's like winter time, because it was really dark. It wasn't that late, but it was really dark already. And I go berserk. You know, I'm going berserk because here I am going to Starbucks, run into the bathroom. When I come out, I'm a mess. And people, of course, you know, they're looking at you, like, who's this weirdo? You know, so I go back, and I went. At this time, I'm going to tell you guys that during this time, what I did to myself was something that I had thought about for over a year, for about a year. And a lot of times you might hear people, you know, in your families and things like that, talk about how depressed they get through sickness and illness. I remember I stopped at the Walgreens. I called my buddy up. I said, dude, I'm really sick. I can't make it tonight. Please, you know, apologize to our clients. I let my boss know. Of course, my boss is pissed, you know, so whatever. Anyways, so that night, not too late, I pick up the phone, and I remember I talked to Gabriel's mom for a couple minutes, not too long. And I talked to Marcos, and I talked to Gabriel, and I talked to Angel, and all I told them was, hey, I miss you guys. I'm just calling you guys to let you know that I love you. I'll never stop loving you. That night, I drank 20 Percocet, about 40 Tramadol, about 30 Tylenol pills. And something else, I can't even remember what it was. And after I talked to him, or even as I was talking to Gabe, I felt myself, because I had already done the deed. I felt myself like slipping away. So I put my seat back just so I could finish talking to these guys. But what led to all this was not having a group of men like you guys. Because had I had that support system that you guys have, I probably wouldn't have taken these type of actions. And I tried to kill myself. And I thought I was dead because I felt myself pass out. All of a sudden this was probably about 6, 7 o'clock at night, behind a little shopping center hidden. It was like in a dumpster. I made it so nobody would find me until clear daylight. And I wake up and the consequences were there physically. So I end up trying to get to the hotel, and I barely made it to the hotel. I sent my boss a text. I said, I'm really sick, really, really sick. I may need to go to the hospital. And I remember myself just holding out as tight as I could to that suitcase handle so I wouldn't fall, because my legs were spaghetti. I mean, I really don't know how I walked. And I got up about an hour and a half later, and I was going to make my way back to Orlando, and I didn't make it. I just, I couldn't. I was so impaired and so messed up. I couldn't tell if my hands were on the steering wheel or not. Do you have paper towels or anything? Somewhere? So, you ask yourself, how could a guy with a great kid like Gabriel, with a great kid like Adriel, even think about this? Well, it's simple. Very simple. Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, just not having that person or two people that I could go to and say, man, I've been thinking these weird thoughts. It seems like every thought I have is to just do it because your family will get insurance money and they'll be way better off without you, because I knew I wasn't going to be able to work much longer in the situation that I was in which I wasn't able to actually afterwards. But yeah, so that I'm kind of glad I never really told anybody the story. I kind of kept it to kind of myself and my older kids. I'm not even sure if Angel knew about it. But I'm not gloating the experience. But I do have to say that going through it did teach me to try to look forward, even though, your wife's supposed to be your best friend, this and this and that. No, not really. She's supposed to be your wife. Serious. Well, we're told, oh, your wife should be your best friend, right? When you grow up. That's what my dad taught. Yeah. But in that aspect, I have to say that was not the right thought. I wish I would have, especially getting a little bit age, and it might be a little harder when you do have kids and a family and everything to really connect with people in that fashion, because you always have to include, the wife, right? And she has to like that other person's wife or whatever. So what I'm saying is always maintain a good one or two people that no matter what, you can call at no matter what time, day, night. You know, Monday through Monday. And just, you know, if you're having thoughts about anything, especially if it's something, you know, seriously as, you know, offering yourself, you know, now I think about it and I say, man, I was so confused. But when you don't know that you're mentally unwell and that you need to talk to some people, when you don't know that, you know, you think you're okay. And really, no. I mean, you can avoid a lot of trouble. I'm going to tell you guys, if you guys really find good, solid friends, guy friends, not girlfriends, guy friends that understand you, understand what triggers you, understands, you know, what can make the best come out of you. And those are the guys that you need to be with. So that's all I have to say about that.
Love you, Dad.
Love you too, son.
I'm glad you're here, Dad.
I am too.
Thank you for sharing that. I have to say to anyone about how important their health is after what you just said. But I just want to try to wrap this up with Dad. Earlier this week, where's Alex at? Alex led us in an awesome prompt after his keynote about the worst thing that had happened in our lives, and he challenged us all to find 3 good things that came of that. So, you know, I might be putting you on the spot a little bit here, but I want to challenge you to share with us 3 good things that came of the story that you just told.
The first thing is that I wasn't expecting to wake up. So when I got up, the last part of the story, I apologize, I forgot. Have you guys ever heard of the Baker Act in Florida, where they put you away if you try to do anything funny? Well, they Baker Acted me in Georgia, so that was not fun. That was not fun. But three things, obviously, me being here and being able to share. I mean, I'm talking to you guys. I might feel like, okay, should I really be saying this stuff? But if I'm being led to say these things, that means that somebody's got to hear it for some specific reason. So I'll let God use me in that aspect. So that's, I mean, this is a big blessing for me, for sure. I think the second biggest positive thing that has come out of that is the awareness of how fragile people's mentality, if that's the right word, could be. It's very simple to be around your friends, hanging out, going and getting coffee, whatever, you know, having a good old time. A lot of times the person that seems to be the most chill, the happiest, is the person that might have some serious issues that may be seriously enough to, you know, for them to contemplate killing themselves. And that happens so much in this country, you would think. With this country as blessed as we are, you know, and the freedoms that we have and all that, you know, less people will do that. But I mean, there's people that have just been through traumatic experiences, you know, man, you know, I went through trauma with my dad for being an alcoholic, but man, compared to what you went through, to me, that's like, oh my God, what would I have done if my dad would have abandoned us at 11, my mom, so I think the third one is that I have a great outlook in life, and I have to have a great outlook, because no matter how bad we have it, oh, I can't pay my car. Oh, I gotta work extra hours this week. Oh, I gotta pay Gabe. I don't know how you guys do your thing.
Anytime I see that check leave, I forget too.
Sign the Panda Doc, baby.
Hey, look, I'll challenge you guys. Just go to, I don't know, people don't hang out at malls anymore, but somewhere where there could be, a lot of people. Maybe, when I was a kid, my dad used to take us to the airport just to watch people. It's because we had no AC in our house. It was hot as hell. So just look at all the people. You're going to see hundreds and hundreds of people walking through. I guess you could probably do this at one of the attractions. And just realize that maybe about 80% of those people are maybe pretty bad off in some situation in their life. There might be 20 which are kind of there. Maybe they got out of something recently that they struggled with, and maybe they were able to overcome it. Some people might just be beginning. I guess they call it the peaks and the valleys, right? And but there's always somebody that's 100 times worse off than me, And I can't complain. I'm keeping my mouth shut. I'm not going to talk about that crap because I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I really am. I mean, the kids like you, now all these kids, from all over the country and all over the world, really.
Yeah, I love that. That's the last takeaway they shared with us. The last positive thing, that you're able to look around, have a positive outlook on life, and look at things that everyone struggles with. I mean, you just shared what most people would think is a really, really tough struggle, but you still are able to look around and say, I'm blessed, right? I'm blessed. And you touched on this point earlier, right when we started talking, and you talked about the amount of gratitude that you have for life now. And you asked me to remind you about the story of Marcos yanking on a shark's tail with Angel beating up a bunch of guys. What's the reason you wanted me to remind you of that?
I can't remember. But thanks for bringing it up.
You're welcome.
Ended on a light note.
Yeah.
No, I don't have anything else to say, really. Like I said, I was kind of shocked. Gabe asked me to come, and he asked me to do the interview, and I was like, oh, what am I going to share with those guys? Those guys are, if they're anything like Gabe, they're intense. So, no, but if you guys know Gabe, he's been like this, as intense as he is, since he was a baby. A couple funny things, and I'll close it with this. I was telling a couple of the guys, Gabe, from the moment he was born until he finally started dating, he hated girls. Hated them. He hated girls. He hated pink. He hated girls' shoes. I remember one time, I'm sorry for doing this, son.
No, you're good.
One time we were in J.C. Penney, and we were looking at some shoes, some gym shoes, and I went and to tease him. I don't know where their mom was. I went and grabbed some pink gym shoes from the little girl section. I brought him. I said, Gabe, here, I got your shoes for school. He looks at me. He goes, I said, no. I said, for real, this is what you're going to wear for school. And he just, I don't like those. Yeah, but Gabe was always, Gabe has always been very intense. Another thing we always kind of found a little funny about Gabe
Oh,
is
gosh.
that
I have no idea what he's going to say.
this was when he was about 13. all of a sudden he comes out and he still had his long hair and everything, you know, and he goes, he was very quiet, and we're talking around the dinner table. He's just quiet. I don't know how the question came up, like, you know, what's going on, Gabe? Why are you so quiet? He goes, I decided that unless I have something important to say, I'm just not going to say it at all. Come on, dude, you're only 13. Lighten up a little bit. Other thing you guys want to know, he used to love Justin Bieber.
Come on. Whoa.
He gets along so well with Matt and Joey.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, the Jonas Brothers, forget it, man.
Oh, yeah. That one I'll embrace, yeah.
This guy. No, but Gabe was always a pretty good kid. He never really got into too much trouble. He was kind of a hardhead. Yeah, he probably doesn't even realize that he was, but he was a little bit of a hardhead. So, you know, we just kind of had to deal with that as it came along. Like one time, he prioritized getting some tires for his truck. Now, his truck had no tires. I think he blew one out, whatever. So I'm like, dude, we need to go get you some tires. You can't go to your practice. I mean, I didn't realize it, that truck, the tires were so bad. And no, but I got to get to practice on time. I said, well, you're not going to make it to practice. You're going to crash on I-4. No, I got to go. Can I borrow your car? I said, no. He said, let's take care of priorities first. Priorities, take care of your vehicle. If they got a problem with you at the volleyball club, then, you know, that's their problem. And I made him stay, and he wasn't happy about that. And, you know, I made him stay at least till we bought him, and then I let him go in my car.
I got him.
I didn't, you know, make him wait the whole time. But
That car was fast, too. I made it on time, I think.
yeah, so, those are just kind of typical, you know, teenager kind of stuff. This is what I want to say. So I think about 2 years into Gabe starting with this company. Now, mind you, right when he graduated from high school, he was in a room with Jack back then. And they were morning, noon, and night putting together this. And I think you probably went through a couple versions of it, right?
Yeah.
But they were dedicated. I mean, they were there. I mean, and it was a hot room of the house. You know how all the houses have a hot room here? The AC just doesn't get there very well. And they'd be in there. I was like, man, how do these kids stay in this room? I'd be going freaking nuts. But they were there, man. They were like, And so I saw them. They start building this thing in about maybe like 2 years in, 3 years. He asked me something. He said, Dad, you know, we're starting to get some clients in our company, and but he says, what do you think if we kind of market our company just to guys that are like us, that are conservative minded, that are spiritually minded, you know, that love Jesus, stuff like that. And I said, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, these kids, they blew it, right? They really blew it. I'm saying this as a Christian father. I said, because now he's going to have a quarter of the clientele base that he could have if he would just open it up. Well, being here today for the past 3 hours, I see exactly when Gabe said, I want my company to be like-minded guys. This is what he was telling me back then, way back then. I don't even, did you guys even have a client back then?
We had a few, but you couldn't tell either way.
I don't know. All I know is that they were locked in that room the whole day and the whole night. But yeah, and honestly, that's what I thought. Coming and just knowing so many business people, I said, why would my son not open it up and make money from everyone? And you know what? The best decision you could have made was to do it the way you did it. Because this is not a normal workout company that anybody could just sign up in an app and, you know, you got girls doing their little thing, you know, and, you know, they get triggered by any little thing you say. You can't say F you in front of them. But, you know, it's like, man, I was telling the guys, I don't know if you heard, Matt, but you blessed me so much because you cursed. Because that's the way America talks, but not in church. And that's one of the things that's missing in church. Not necessarily the cursing, but the being real. Hey, let's be real here. Guys, we're real. When you guys leave and go home, you guys got a lot of things to deal with. You know, and it's reality. And you know what? Sometimes we just curse. That's part of our language. That's part of our upbringing. It is what it is, right? And you don't see me going around, you know, going crazy, cursing or anything like that. But that doesn't mean that, you know, I don't. And it doesn't mean, Matt, that I don't appreciate the Word of God in in our American vernacular.
Yep.
Thank you for being brave, for being bold to do that, because that's your calling. And you know what? There's going to be places where when you open that mouth, there's going to be people there that are going to be like, oh my God, what is this? Who does he think he is? Using such profane language, talking about God and the Word of God. No, but there's going to be people that really need to be touched. Young men. Young men that if you don't talk in their language, they won't be sensitive to the Word of God. And that's important. That's my big takeaway from today. I'm done.
Thanks, Dad.
Do you have a copy? Thank you so much. Thank you.